So how do you inspire people behind the brand, but people that work for you? I think that's really something that a lot of my listeners will want to know. How do you get them fired up about your brand and customer service?
So it's absolutely critical that you get your team involved, because if you're the owner of the business or the leader of the organization and you don't share your vision or your goals or your values, then the team are just floating along. Because in a workplace, you have people that come into it from all different directions and all different opinions and viewpoints. And even though you may be working towards, well, this is the product or the service we're selling, if they don't understand the why and the how and the wisdom behind it, they're just sending a widget. Then they don't really, their heart is not in it. And that's where inconsistency comes in when it comes to customer service.
Hello and welcome to Connected with Melissa J. Scott. And today I'm very excited to be interviewing Michelle Pascoe. You've got the coolest business name, Michelle. I love it. Oops. Oops stands for, I'm going to give you a little preview and then I'm going to just hand it over to you. Optimum Operating Procedures and Services, which really sums up your businesses, which is amazing. And you've also got a second business, which I'll get you to talk about, which I'm very invested in, which is Second Momentum, which is a very interesting business. Very close, dear to my heart too. I'm a woman approaching 50 and it's for women, you know, around that age group and above, expanding and growing into, you know, who they truly are. So love to talk about that as well. But let's just give a brief, people. So you're a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, a speaker. I love you're a very proficient world speaker, author, coach, trainer. You've got online courses, podcaster, and probably your favorite role of nanna.
Yes, definitely. That is my favorite. And rather sad at the moment because I haven't been able to see my beautiful grandson who's 7 or my gorgeous little granddaughter who are 4 because they live in Mudgee. So, yes, as I'm sure many other nannas are going through the same situation at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Because as we put this to air, it's right in the middle of COVID isolation, which is such a weird period of time. But it's probably a good lead into my first question for you. I'll let you sort of like give us a bit of a brief bio about yourself as well. But my question to you be initially is that customer service has never been more important than ever because businesses are hurting right now, struggling, trying to find that point of difference. They're turning to online. How do we do online and still give good customer service? There's a lot of questions there.
It is. But it's a perfect segue into customer service because the thing that I found, you know, I established my business back in 1994 and I still find it remarkable when you talk about customer service, people still think it's just about the please, the smile and the thank you, and it's so much more. And when you look at people who put together business plans, they put the operations, the cash flow, all those things which are very, very important, but they never ever put in there about the customer service, both the external customer service, how they deal with their customers, but also the internal customer service, which is absolutely paramount, which is how you deal with your team, whether they're a team that sit beside you, whether they're a remote team, or perhaps even VAs. It's important to understand that without customer service, you can have the best product or the best looking facility and nobody's going to come back. They may try you once, but they won't return because they'll find somebody else. Because the biggest thing with customer service is lack of consistency. So now going online, even though I've been saying for quite a number of years now, as lovely as online is, the more we become online focused, the more that we want human connection. Even if they are an online site, we still want that human connection. And I think this is really has shown that in these last few weeks and months now that we may well be in isolation because so many of us are now online and perhaps for the first time setting up businesses where we have to sell a product or a service online, or maybe our first time where we are purchasing a number of things online. Things don't always go well. And the biggest thing you always find with a website that is usually online, there's no contact details. So you can't physically ring somebody up. You're waiting to send out an email. And when you do, who is it going to? Will it ever be answered? So it's very important that online shopping, that they get clearly what the customer journey is all about. Because the more then it's not just Gen Z, it's every generation now is wanting that frictionless purchase. Press a button, oh, And here comes the postman tomorrow. Well, maybe every second day now they're changing the deliveries, but there it comes. So we have to think about that customer journey every step of the way to iron out the friction, but also to ensure that we, particularly during this time with our customers, we may not be able to see them, Melissa, face to face, that we always had done. And, you know, they can't come and see us. We can't come and see them. So what we don't want to do is allow others to speculate on what is happening with our businesses. So that's where it's really important for you, whether you are taking a hiatus during this period of time or whether you're struggling to go online, it's important that you convey that to your customers, and only you can do that. This is your business, your product, your service. So keep connected with them, but don't just send them an email. I don't know about you, Melissa, but I know in the first week I got emails from businesses that I hadn't done any business with perhaps for 5, 6 or more years. I may have only purchased one thing, and they put up this grand statement that they care about you during COVID-19, and then it's a hard sell. And they didn't know whether I was 18, 57, 32. They had no idea. They didn't connect with me. They just were, oh, well, let's just put a disguise up seriously about, you know, we care for you, but the rest of the time I need to flog this product because I need to get some money. And I just kept hitting unsubscribe. And I'm sorry, I've never heard from you. You've never cared about me beforehand. But I'm sure your listeners, Melissa, as you are as a businesswoman, is that you do care about your customers. So it's keeping in contact with them. It's letting them know that, yeah, your doors may be closed, but I'm doing this, or perhaps there's a recipe, or there's a knitting pattern. You know, there's lots of ways that we can share with customers without having to just push the hard sell. And it's customer connections and that experience.
God, I mean, I'm sold.
There's a lot of questions.
But I'm sold. I completely resonate with what you're saying. I mean, my whole sell to my customers in the branding and marketing space is connection marketing. So it's a beautiful marriage, what we talk about, you know, and so my ears are just pinging every time you speak. I love it. So, okay, so I got a million emails when COVID happened, but even any old time, you know, because I want to sort of make this relevant across the board. How would we be communicating then in an online space? What looks good? Because obviously we say, okay, you know, email marketing, social media, video. How do you recommend to your customers right now and moving forward, because we're being educated how to buy online, this will continue, this will not just end. What are some top tips that you can give that you think that are actionable to people listening?
Look, I think going forward now, because as well as people say, oh, you know, the world will be very different, we are still going to be going out of our homes. And I think business will still connect with people. That's what it's all about. So you may wish to continue with an email or a newsletter every fortnight. But what I want to put in there is not just that hard sell. You are truly connecting with them, sharing with them, perhaps whether it's now or in the future, perhaps a course that you've undertaken, or you've attended a seminar or a conference, whether online or you know, face to face, and you've learned something. Is there something from that you could bring? Because the wonderful thing I find being a professional speaker, Melissa, and you know, I travel a lot overseas usually, is that I work with so many different industries that when I hear something, I think, oh wow, my customers and my clients would love that. So I bring that idea back and I say to them, now this is what you know, I've done a couple of courses at Disneyland. This is what, you know, Disneyland do. Now you're not going to be able to replicate that. Sure, we're small businesses, but could you do something similar? So that's where I'm thinking, you know, if you attend different courses or you're reading a book, share that with your customers. Be there for them, being there, as you said, that connection marketing, that conduit to information, and perhaps even collaboration. During this time, you have got that opportunity to seek out perhaps people you haven't spoken to for a while, find out what they're doing. Is there something that you could collaborate on? Have you found that yourself, Melissa?
Oh, absolutely. Like collaboration, that is actually the key. That's why I really like doing this podcasting too. Like I've been telling anyone that'll listen, like, you know, podcasting is an incredible way to get your message out there and, you know, share databases, share messaging. Like, you know, we're very aligned in what we're talking about. We've met each other a couple of times personally, but I've seen you a lot online, you know, so I knew I wanted to collaborate with you because our message is the same. And my question to you is, your dog is gorgeous. I've been walking around in the background.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's cool. My dog is down here too, like wrapped up in a ball. It's about 3 times bigger. But like, so my dog features heaps in my marketing. My kids feature a lot of my marketing. How personal do you get like as far as building that connection with an audience, and in retaining customers and really developing a relationship, what do you recommend to your customers? Because we're talking about small customers, big customers. How personal do you like to get?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Melissa, because I'll be honest, when I started my business back in 1994, you didn't get personal. People, and the majority of my clients are all, well, majority of them are men. I work predominantly with the hospitality industry and the registered club industry. So in my mind was, these men are not interested in hearing about your children, children back then, well before grandchildren, or the woes of life. So it was always very focused on, I'm in there, I'm there to do business. And to be honest, I have a very large mystery shopping company, which I created myself, and I got my own software. And so I had that, but I'm also have a large training company. But silly me, back then, I would not tell my clients that I did both things, thinking that, oh, well, if I gave them a bad report and I promoted my training, they'd think, oh, she's given us that, and probably lost a lot of money, left a lot of money on the table. But also my clients said to me, 5-6 years went past. They go, when I said it to them, when we talk about things personal, this is when I would have that personal conversation. And they go, why didn't you tell us? What would make you think that we weren't interested in what else other services that you had? Now, you and your listeners might be thinking, oh, she was a silly woman, what a silly old fool. But that's the way I felt back then. So if I wasn't going to be talking about my services, I certainly wasn't going to be talking about my personal life. But I realized over time, connection with others, getting out there and talking to different people, and really probably in the last 2 to 3 years, sharing more about my personal journey. I don't know whether it's because I'm older. I'm not worried as much as about people's judgment, because certainly back then, being a strong female woman, a woman in business, because there weren't many that were building in my community at that stage. So you were either frowned upon as this, person was always, zooming off and not able to get to every school event, or you were just talking about business, like, why can't you talk about something else? So it was interesting. Whereas now I talk about, growing up on a turkey farm, and I talk about my grandchildren, and I do have this gorgeous little puppy dog. And I think it's made a different connection with people. And for my clients, I know so much about them, because a lot of my clients have been with me for 10, 20 years. And so when we sit down, I may have a 2-hour meeting with them. And seriously, Melissa, 5 minutes might be on work. And it's like, oh yeah, here's your report. And the rest of the time it's hearing about their children, because I've been with them for so long, we know each other really well. I think it was just me getting past that. Well, are they thinking that I'm more focused on being a woman in business instead of being a business corporate person? But things have changed, which is great. Yeah, because it makes a stronger relationship.
So you're 25 plus years in business.
Yes.
That's awesome. I'm 20 years now, which is cool. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that maybe one of your kids is 25 or 26, because that's what
I'm actually a little bit older. So so my son is, he's now 31. My daughter is just about to turn 30, my middle daughter. So no party this weekend. And my youngest, my princess, is 21. So I started my business before Kaylin was born, and people go, oh my goodness, she had a big gap. And I'm thinking, yes, because I was running this crazy business by myself back in those days, building it up.
How did you build? I love asking people that have been around for a long time. How did you build your business then, and how are you building it now?
Oh gosh, well, I've got 3. I come from a very different age groups in my family. So my parents were a lot older when they had me. My father had returned from the Second World War, so my 2 eldest brothers were fairly close. Then a few years later, I had the 3rd child, my 3rd brother, and then 8 years. So between myself and my eldest brother were 15 years difference. So my father had always been really strong in, supporting me with ideas when I was in the working world. Then I had 2 very small children. Bryce at that stage was, 7 when I started my business. And Amelia was only, what was she, 4? So yeah, about 6.5 and 4. And I was by myself. I found myself in a situation where I was going to be now a sole parent, and my mother was very, very ill with cancer, who'd always been a great help to me, both my parents. And I thought, I can't be traveling in and out to the city anymore, you know, because it was too much for my father to look after little ones. You know, at least Bryce was at kindergarten, but Amelia was still at childcare, and she didn't really enjoy it very much. And I said, you know, Mum was in Westmead just about every day for a number of years. So when the time came, it was getting close, and I knew my mother wasn't going to get any better. I went for an interview for a job, Melissa, that was very well paid, probably about a half an hour from home. And I talk more about this in my presentations, but to cut a long story short, it was the most horrific interview in my whole life, that he just attacked every deep down doubting self-belief I had in myself. And it was dreadful. And the next day when he offered me the position, I realized that his values and mine certainly were not congruent. And from that day forward, I thought, I'm not going to put myself in a situation working for somebody, no matter what the money is. So I I thought, no, I'll start something myself. And I went out, and then my mother did pass away. So I had a small amount of inheritance, and I bought this massive computer and this printer that seemed to cost an absolute fortune. And I hadn't done a business plan, and I'd worked it all out, and I had my business cards, and I was going to charge $10 an hour. And out I went in my car. I'd drop the kids off at school and preschool, and then I'd get to the local industrial area, because I was teaching people effective telephone communication, how to answer the telephone. And I'd sit out the front of the premises, and then it'd be morning tea time. And then, anyway, cut a long story short, at the end of the day, and I'd never gotten out of the car. And my father said to me, the first thing you have to do, sweetheart, is as soon as you pull up, you get out of that car, because he had done door-to-door sales after the Second World War. So he said, you just got to get out of that car. So that's how I started, knocking on doors and picking up the phone book. And I used to just sit there and go from one end of because there was no internet. There was no groups. There was no social connection.
That is exactly the same way how I grew my business, exactly the same way.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I don't know whether I'm young enough now to do it, but anyway.
And it's how everyone did it. We just knocked on doors, picked up the phone. We were so bold. It was quite amazing. Yeah.
But you know what? I think the big difference was we made that really strong connection. Because they met us face to face. And I've sworn blind all these years in business that particularly my mystery shopping reports are very comprehensive. They could be 300, 400, 600 pages. Like, they are big. They're not a 10-question tick and flick. And I knew as soon as I could get in front of the person, show them a report, I'd always come out with we're definitely going ahead. Because they could then actually weigh up apples for apples instead of apples and oranges, you know, because they hadn't seen it. So, but also knowing me, like you, Melissa, you know, with your marketing, like we have lots of competitors, you and I, as probably many of your listeners do. Yeah. But what makes it different is you. And that's how they make that connection of that head and the heart when they see you, don't they? Yeah.
That's 100% right. So you've got online course, you podcast, you're active on various different social media platforms. Is there one that you're particularly chuffed with, or is speaking still your best way, or do you still have like a cold calling? Do you target people that you want as clients?
Yeah, look, you know, I suppose and I'm sure with your business being in 20 years, most of my clients over probably the good last decade have been personal referrals. And you know, some of the young guys and girls that I trained when they just started in the club industry at 18, and I was training them in frontline customer service. Well, over those 20 years are now senior leaders. Some of them are CEOs of their own venues or high up, you know, in middle management or senior management. So they've actually taken me on their journey as well. And that has been exceptional, and something that I truly believe has been an honour and a privilege to not only be on the business journey with them, with many of the venues, but also on their personal journey. And to me, that's so important. It really is. So yes, personal referrals has been a big thing, but now social media, I've always enjoyed LinkedIn. I think that's always been a very professional part for business, even though it's probably been in the last 6 months, all of a sudden all these other social medias have realised, oh yes, LinkedIn is for business to business. It's great. I don't know about you, Melissa. I've always found that very good. But yeah, look, there are other social medias that I am on, the other platforms, but it still comes down to that personal recommendation. That's, to me, is the word of mouth, isn't it?
And that's obviously what you teach when you're training people with their customer service, is about that's how they're going to grow and expand their businesses too, particularly in the retail environment, the club environment. I know that you service. So how do you inspire people behind the brand? Because I read that on your website and I heard that in your video. It's really good. So it's about, not just about the business owner, because it's quite easy for the business owner to get heated up about and hotted up about their brand, but people that work for you. I think that's really something that a lot of my listeners will want to know. How do you get them fired up about your brand and customer service?
So it's absolutely critical that you get your team involved, because if you're the owner of the business or the leader of the organization and you don't share your vision or your goals or your values, then the team are just floating along. Because in a workplace, you have people that come into it from all different directions and all different opinions and viewpoints. And even though you may be working towards, well, this is the product or the service we're selling, if they don't understand the why and the how and the wisdom behind it, they're just sending a widget. Then they don't really, their heart is not in it. And that's where inconsistency comes in when it comes to customer service. So it's really important that to get them on board, first off, you've got to write a really good job description. Then you've got to get the person, a really good interview questions. Don't rush into it. Sometimes we think, and I'll put my hand up 1,000 times where I get so excited because, oh my gosh, you're fantastic. We're just going to get on really well. But that's not the person who's actually going to do the role, So you got to stick to some really good questions and ensure that the role that you're wanting to fulfill is going to be that person, right role. And then when you have got them in there, you've also got to discuss what your values are. And that's why I think it's really important. Many people may even have on the website now, Melissa, a little bit of the behind the scenes in their business. So because you want to become a workplace of choice where people will actually say, I want to work for them. And when you get those people in your organization, when yours is an organization where people are seeking you out, wow, the outcome is fantastic. But you have to tell them that your values, your goals, and your vision, and you've got to be there for them. You've got to get to know their name, what they do, what do they enjoy on the weekend. Now, there is a difference between being buddy and boss, and that's hard. For some people, they find it very hard, particularly with their own business or they've stepped up through the ranks with the business. So there always has to be that line between boss and buddy. But it's showing that, and if you've got a good team, then they'll respect that. But that's what keeps them inspired. It's you. They want to work for you, and that's what I think sometimes we forget, that people want to work for us.
I love that, and I really get that. You're singing my song. It's all about connecting. I guess you're connecting with your team. You're connecting to what they want, their values. That's so critical, and. I go so far as to even say, share your team behind the scenes as well, and get them so involved in that relationship with your customer and pushing your brand forward. And we can do that online now because we need to do it online. So, and I'm totally infuriated by what you say. I'm going to sidetrack a bit now because I love that you speak globally, like you speak on a worldwide stage. I think that's wonderful, and how big a deal has that been in building your business, and how hard was it to get to become? I reckon a lot of people listening to this would be inspired by that and going, how does somebody get to speak worldwide? Paid.
Yeah, and paid, yes, it's good. There's a lot of years of not being paid, but yes. You got to love to talk. No, I used to get into trouble at school. Oh my goodness, Michelle, you've talked far too much. I went to a bush school. There was only 10 of us, so my voice seemed to stand out. But look, I started when in my very early days of business, I helped out Mission Employment, which was a local job network agency after CES closed in the late 90s. And assisting them, I ran the first NICE program, the first pilot program for people that were on a government benefit that wanted to go into business themselves. And the Mission Employment actually organised a wonderful Walter Dickman, who was one of our original long-term speakers here in Australia. I think he actually learned under Dale Carnegie, and an amazing man. And when I first met him back then, he would have well been in his maybe early 70s, maybe even a little bit older, and unfortunately he has passed away now. But he gave me this realization that people not only could be paid to speak, it's not about payment, it's about sharing your message and truly helping others, not up there flogging a product. And that's one thing, if anybody who knows me, I do not sell from the stage. I know others do, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's just not me. But that gave me the opportunity to then join what back then was the National Speakers Association of Australia, which is now the Professional Speakers of Australia. And in the last 2 years, I was asked to be the Global Speakers Federation. So I represent the Australian PSA on the board, and I love it. And over the years, I've grown as a speaker, both here in Australia and overseas, speaking in different countries. But it's always that connection. And then I was accredited after quite a number of years of becoming a certified speaking professional, where when I got it, there were less than 80 of us in Australia that held that accreditation, and under 1,000, well under 1,000 around the world. And I think it still is under 1,000. We've got a few more now here in Australia. It used to be very male dominated, but then I think, a lot of women, like a lot, perhaps in my age group too, they were off on different courses in life, or, our different journeys in business. There are many now amazing female and male speakers here in Australia, and we are getting to see more of a semi-balance on the conference circuit, but there are still many conferences that have a strong bias towards just male speakers. And whether that is the convener's issue, that's what they've chosen, or perhaps some women, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, Melissa, that we may be very good at what we do, but we don't always, when we have one box that's not ticked out of those 10, we go, oh, and then so we don't put our hand up and we don't put our name out. And if we don't be in it to win it, you can't win it if you're not in it. It's as simple as that. So that's where it's that support, I think, as women as well, in nominating or suggesting another female speaker or another business owner, or even another male, as long as, we support each other, the more that we will certainly grow. But no, look, I love talking and hearing different professionals over the years. I always attend the speakers conferences in America as well, here in Australia. But, going to all the industry conferences that I go to, I love listening to people speak and how they project on the stage. And to me, that's important, because you've got to be authentic. If you are on the stage like this and then you get off the stage and like that, people will just see right through you more and more these days, which is good. We don't want to listen to somebody who's fake.
100%. And like, people can just check you out on your website or something, or your social media to figure it out. Like, it's not hard. I love the notion of speaking, and I think it's incredibly valuable for people's business. If somebody wanted to start out, how would you recommend that they get going straight away?
Look, joining PSA, it's not like you're not there to learn how to speak. You would have already been a speaker, or perhaps been a trainer in an organisation. So it's more about business models and technical side of things, and etc. Whereas Toastmasters, if you're just starting out, is a wonderful way to learn how to quell those nerves. Now, don't get me wrong, whether it's myself who's been speaking for 2 decades, or whether it's some of the most amazing speakers in the world, they all get that little bit of nerves. And I think many people would know Professor Brené Brown and her beautiful TED Talks and all her talks, whether it's on shame and vulnerability. But even she says, it's those first few seconds before you just step out onto the platform, it is, but to me, if you don't feel like that, then you're not truly connected. I remember years ago, you used to see people that would rote learn the keynote message, and you'd never be able to ask them a question about anything, or even interrupt them, because it was literally, like that. On the third word, I put my hand up, and it was like so cookie cutter. Well, people just don't accept that, and they haven't for a long time. But now you see people that they'll have an outline what they're going to talk to you, because people are there, they're paying too. The last thing you want is somebody to waffle. So, it's either the 3 points and then a story. And that's how people learn. It's your stories, your knowledge that you share, as well as content. Because, there's some speakers that are inspirational, others that are content rich. You can have a mixture, or they can be just a humorist. But majority of people, if they're paying good money, they're wanting to get something from it. So you can't cheat an audience out of content.
Yeah,
Can
I
you?
love that. No, that's personal. What a way to build up, the brand. So let's move on now to your other passion project, which I personally love, is your Second Momentum. Do you want to talk us through what that is and who it helps?
Yeah, well, I think after all these years in business and having a really successful business, with the training and the research, and that's just pot along, because I've got a really large team, Melissa, who does all that research for me, because unfortunately my voice and my face, clients, I'm hardly a mystery shopper anymore these days. So I'd always wanted to do something with other business women, but I'd never had the time to actually venture out. But with a great administration team that have been with me for a long time, I really put my mind to it. Probably about the middle of last year, I went, right, this is it. This is time for Second Momentum, where I'll be helping men and women. But if I look at it now, there's probably a majority of predominantly women in embracing this Second Momentum and growing the business they've always dreamed of. Now they're over 50. So it's either for women that are transitioning from the corporate world, or perhaps it's a solopreneur who's had a hobby but is now wanting to scale up, or a seasoned entrepreneur like myself who has got a successful business and may still well be keeping that, but are now wanting to take another route, to explore something that they've always wanted to do but haven't been able to, whether that's financially or time-wise. So I thought, look, we'll see, is this just this wonderful grand idea I've got of having this online program, which I love, which consists of 6 modules, or is it just going to be flat? So I created this Facebook group last year, about must have been mid-November, and instantly I got over 140 women and a few men, as I said, but majority of women from all around Australia, America, India, Singapore, Malaysia, and they're all part of this group. And they're all in that age group. I do say I do not check birth certificates, so don't worry. But it's women coming from all different walks of life that are wanting to really embrace that Second Momentum. And I love it. It's great. It's what I've always wanted to do.
Is that your passion project, do you think? Like, because, you've been doing your business for 25 plus years, and, it keeps changing, obviously, but is this what you're probably really, this is your next passion thing?
Yeah, look, definitely. And I think that's a really nice title, passion project. Yes. Because I think there's a lot of people like myself that you can just keep going, running your business. And if anything, this particular time has probably been quite an abrupt awakening for some who've thought, oh, well, everything will go along really well until this has been forced upon us. So let's revisit. Do we really want to go back? I certainly don't want to go back to sitting on the M5 for hours every day trying to get to clients like I used to. I want to do things differently. So I'm really pleased that I've created Second Momentum. So I launched it earlier this year, and it's growing because now I've got the time to work behind it and spend the time. And I think you're right. There's a lot of people that I've met that are in our group that are women that have had successful businesses, or even have only started them up in the last couple of years, but it allows them now to go on a caravan holiday for 6 months with their husband, because a lot of their husbands have retired. And I think this is very interesting. This is having a lifestyle, but something that you love and still bringing money in. So it's good. I love it.
I'm intrigued to see how it all goes, because I just think it's the next wave of kind of entrepreneurial newbies. And I'm approaching that age myself too, so I'm really intrigued how it's going to go and how it's going to grow. Yeah. And it is a wave. What do you think has held women back traditionally over the years? Like, you were probably very alone 25 years ago when you started out in business. I've gone to a lot of female networking groups. I've been doing this for about 20 plus years. We still hold ourselves back and play small. What do you think is that?
Yeah, look, I think you're right. It is that in that back of our mind, because I think, we're, particularly the women in that age group, we were born in a different era. And I know at school, for instance, when I was in first form, or year 7 back then, in 1974, and I was sitting there in assembly, and the year 12 girls were leaving, and they were singing I Am Woman by Helen Reddy. And I still send chills down my spine, because at that time they were breaking, they were being groomed for an era of becoming wonderful wives and certainly very good for the husbands in their business, but always perhaps being in the business but being hidden away, or not being out there in the front and center. But for many of them, it was a different era that they had been groomed for those 13 years at school, but they were coming out realizing they were able to go to university, they were able to become doctors, start their own businesses, and that was 74, and that was it was a real eye-opener for me. And over the years, I've always kept that in the back of my mind. If those girls could do that back then, how much more have I got the freedom and the ability to do that? And how much more now have women of any age have got to do that? But it is important that we do collaborate with our male counterparts as well, because Melissa, we can't be one without the other. And I'm very strong for women in business and being supportive of them all the time. But we also need, and I found in my business journey, is connecting with those gentlemen that understand where a woman's, that women have got this ability, that we can do all these things. Because, back then when I first started with clubs, there weren't very many females in senior positions. And now many of my clients are CEOs of these businesses because they've taken that leap forward in their faith to actually step up from the front line to the middle management to the senior management. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more of, where women now have that confidence, but we still lack that, I don't know, it's something about us where, they always say, a male, and, this is very much a generalization, where a male will not fake it till he makes it, but, if you've got 10 questions, you've got to, 10 boxes you've got to tick. If he's got half of them, well, that's fine, I'll go for the job. Whereas we still feel, as being a female, not all, once again, very general, but we've got to have every box ticked, beforehand. And perhaps also they haven't always had the support of either their partner in life or their family, whether it's the family have always said, why do that, love? You can still get, a good wage. You don't have to work long hours. Has that been a part? So that's where I see supporting of women on that trajectory in business is important for us to connect with, isn't it? Don't you think?
100%. I totally agree with you. We hold ourselves back, and I totally agree with you too. It's not just about women in business. It's all about just people in business and connecting. But I think we do need to encourage women along to think bigger and think bolder and to be braver in the way that we market. But where I think we have an advantage is we do connection really well. So that's probably, I'm so passionate about that and really keen to see how your second momentum goes, because I think they're natural connectors, and that's what's kind of like the next wave of how to market. So
yes,
I can't wait.
Connection and collaboration, because there wasn't as much collaboration when I had first started up in business. It was still very much a silo business. There wasn't much help out there, and as I said, I didn't know many other business women, whereas now there's more that strength with collaboration. What I find with many in second momentum, Melissa, is that they felt like they've been treading water for quite a while. They've got ideas, but they just don't know how to go forward, particularly if they're making an income. And I'm not saying, it's millions and millions, but they're making a comfortable income. It's that, well, do I need to change? What would be the reason for me to change? I can just potter along here and I'm doing well, but am I truly happy? And that's where second momentum is giving them that opportunity to go, no, I really do want to embrace something else. Could still have that, or sell it, or scale it down, whatever it might be, or scale it up, whatever, where they are. But it's giving them that conduit and that collaboration and that community where they can actually talk that, some days it's fantastic and other days it's not so good.
Yeah.
It happens.
What it lends itself to is a discussion, which was one of my questions for you, is how do you even measure success? Because I think sometimes women consciously choose not to be, the CEO and work those stupid hours. Like, we're actually a bit smarter. We'll take the manager's job, or we'll take, keep our business smaller and tighter and more robust and have it more malleable. So, we have every facet of our life is fulfilling. So what's your personal view of success?
Oh, look, I think, what you've got to be able to lay straight in bed and believe that at the end of every day, you've done your very best, that you have you are grateful for the people that you've met. You're grateful for your health and the family, and that you do have money to put food on the table, but you feel good in yourself. I think that's, to me, that's measuring success, that you are fulfilled within yourself, because it's not just about money. And everybody has a different driver. For some it is money, for others it's lifestyle, for others it could be, kudos in the community. But to me, that success is, as I said, being able to lie straight in bed, knowing that I've worked a solid day in business, whether it's 8 hours, 2 hours, or 20 hours sometimes. But I'm grateful for my health and my family, and that I do have money, that I'm able to do my little trips, and that I can afford food and help others. Because that really is, to me, is what Second Momentum is about now. I've been able to build a very successful business, but now I'm able to help others. And by helping them, I'm then able to help more in a whole different capacity through charities in my community and the broader community. Because if you don't make money, then you can't help charities. And I think at the moment, Melissa, we're seeing that, a lot of charities are really suffering because people aren't, they're not bringing that money in, and there's a lot of small businesses that support a lot of charities. So that's what I'm seeing, and that'll be my measure of success, when I can say, well, here is Second Momentum can stand alone. I have enough money to be able to provide for myself and for my employees, and make it great for all those that are involved in Second Momentum. And now I'll be able to help the charities that are both here in my local area, and the larger ones, such as the Cancer Institute for Children. To me, that to me is success.
I love your answer. It's beautiful. Like, just to lie straight in bed. Such an easy analogy, and just gets the message across. If you weren't doing what you're doing now with both businesses, what would you be doing?
Studying myself. No. What is it? That typical picture I always talk about in my second book I wrote. It was, you always have this idea of this dream holiday. There's always the photograph, isn't it, of just, somebody's painted toenail sitting on a day bed with a lovely cocktail being handed to them. That'd be an ideal and a dream. But would I be happy? No. What would I really like to do? I think if I was truly in the position, and I'm not saying that I won't do this, I think this is giving me a really good opportunity for me to reflect, as I'm sure many of your listeners will be at this time, is that I want to do more where I can connect stronger with my community. I mean, I live in a beautiful area with it's a lovely country, semi-rural area, but I'm sure there's a lot of people in our area that don't have the best of home life. So both for children, and I've done a little bit of exploration into Kookaburra Kids, which is for children, Melissa, and I don't know if you heard about them, that have parents that are suffering from a mental illness. And I got semi-involved and did some talks. When you do a lot of talks to Chamber of Commerce, they go, we can't pay. And I said, well, can you donate money to Kookaburra Kids? Because a lot of the hospitality assists them, but I think particularly at this time when we do come out of isolation, there are going to be a lot of people who will be suffering mentally, and those children who are in that position, who are too concerned or worried if they tell somebody that their parents, or mum can't get out of bed, or dad's gone away for a while because they feel ashamed or the worry. It's very, very hard on them because nobody knows that they exist. So that's something personally, that's what I'd really love to get involved in, more the younger children, particularly with mental awareness, because that, it's something that's very close to my heart, with family very close to me. So
beautiful. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. You've just been a wealth of knowledge. You've given us some really great tips, which I so appreciate. How can people get in touch with you?
So my website is Michelle Pascoe. That's Michellellepascoe.com. And on there is a whole lot of things. So look, I haven't been on Twitter for a while, but I'm in there. But I'm on LinkedIn, happy to join with people, Facebook. And please, if you're in that group and Second Momentum interests you, it's a free group. It's Second Momentum. And by all means, love you to join me in that and the others that are in the group, as well as, what else am I on? Instagram. Yes. So I'm out there. I'm on all, but yes, by all means, or you can just send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. But thank you, Melissa. This has been a wonderful opportunity because I've got 2 podcasts. The main one is Customer Retention Revolution that happens every Wednesday. Then I have another on a Monday for Second Momentum. But I love podcasts. I think it's a great way for people to connect and learn and share.
Absolutely, and get exposed to people that you never normally would. So thank you so much. I know everyone will enjoy it very much, and I will see you very soon. And thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Thanks. Bye.